is that we're going to be recording this webinar. So as of this moment, it is being recorded. So then if you would like to see this in future, of course, you can refer back to it. We should be taking close to an hour. That's how long this webinar will take. And if you have any questions, we have this Q&A panel in the chat window. So please feel free to ask any questions throughout. We'll try to answer them as we go. And of course, we'll have time at the end for any other concerns or issues you might have. And with that, we'll begin. So if we're looking at today's agenda here, just going to open here the next slide. Right. So here's what we're covering today in our agenda. So a short intro about Fudo security and PAM, covering what is zero trust, then further going into limitations of VPNs and how we're going to overcome those issues. Then further about how to make sure that your business and staff are going to work safely in a work remote environment, and how AI-powered biometric prevention and recording is not only good to protecting you, but also helping your business to grow. Right. So as I see the participants here, I think that the concept of PAM, privileged access management, is not a completely new concept. Let's just do a quick recap of what we know. It is something that is ever more essential as we have the same fundamental problem for a while. All these connections, all the admin root accounts, the servers, the routers, proliferation of user accounts, and this is just going on with a huge growth in terms of where this is headed. And this is why PAM is so incredibly useful in actually fixing this issue of knowing what's going on, where's the privileged user. Of course, this has also changed in the last year with COVID-19, but we'll get to that in a moment. So with PAM, it allows this excellent monitoring and allows you to record and audit of remote sessions as if you had a CCTV camera built within the network. We'll look at that in more detail. Right, so this is not just a buzzword, zero trust, and specifically zero trust network access. So what is that? I mean, in terms of the actual origin of it, it goes back quite a few years. So if you have been around in the security field, zero trust was previously a buzzword. However, this is becoming more widely adopted as of 2020, and we're going to see more of that into this year of 2021. And this is something which is key because it allows an organization to mitigate threats and to really avoid unauthorized access to systems. So the zero trust, basically the issue in principle, dictates that no connections, so no connectivity is really allowed until a user is authenticated, essentially until their endpoint is validated and application access is verified for that particular individual, which then stops any kind of cyber criminals or insider abuse from gaining access. So the problem is that we live in this culture of actual trust, of going, once you're in the perimeter, then you are a trusted user. So this unfortunately is no longer the case. And this has been recognized as well in terms of Gartner. And you can see the statistic here that basically the recent report at the end of last year, Gartner predicts by 2022 that 80% of all new digital business applications open up to ecosystem partners will be accessed through zero trust. Then by 2023, we're going to see a massive amount, a majority, 60% of enterprises that will phase out the remote access virtual private networks in favor of a zero trust network. So this is the point where many people counter and say, well, there's already sufficient protection, security, and what we have with VPN is enough. And unfortunately, you can see the industry as a whole it disagrees with that fact. So and one thing to understand is that zero trust is not simply something of a something you download, an add-on or solution in itself. It is a rather wide framework, and it includes many different things, from identification of protection of the surfaces to mapping transaction flows. And there's a wide range and different parts of such a strategy. That's why you have to refer to it as a strategy. And how we interact with things have changed. So in that whole wider picture, which we'll also talk about today, and the wider strategy of what zero trust is, that's where Fudo PAM comes in and assists in a very crucial element of actually identifying and monitoring and protecting data. Right. Just also a brief step into this. I mean, as we know, the idea of what's happened in the last 10 years has changed. More and more ways to get into data, and the attack surfaces continues to grow. What we often deal with PAM, of course, is internal misuse or privileged misuse, and that is still a significant factor. And of course, with COVID-19 and the massive shift to remote work, that has really put a lot of security professionals and organizations into very, very odd situations, difficult situations, running to catch up to secure their workforce and data. And we have, I'm not going to stay away from the politics, but we're likely going to see a heavy portion of our workforce around the world continue in remote or hybrid environments, where this is a huge security vulnerability, where zero trust as this framework fits, and part of that framework must include a privileged access management system. Right. Also, just to cover here really quickly, if you need some more pain points, we're looking still at the damage. And I was looking at a report recently for the predictions of this year. And we're looking at the average cost globally of a data breach probably rising again. I mean, last year, 2020 was a really terrible year for the planet, but also a very bad year for cyber criminals, for both external and insiders. Then we look at the average size of a data breach, around 25,000 files. We look at the time it takes to contain a breach, almost 300 days. That's, it's more than half a year. It's a very long time. So these statistics are still important. These numbers matter because it can see that it still takes too long and it costs very much, and it's a lot of things, and data proliferation will just continue. So that is why zero trust with the digital transformation is so key. And in today's also presentation, we're going to have Rafael show you some of those things. And also what I wanted to kind of bring him in on in a moment. But looking at how you secure your environment, you generally already mentioned have a VPN set up, you have multi-factor authentication, password vaults, but I would counter that having one of these, or perhaps even two of these, is just simply not enough, not extensive enough, as we have various ways, and still the area would just still the Achilles heel are insider threats, now more than ever. So as I already mentioned, Fudo PAM is very much like a security camera, a CCTV inside your data network and in your company. Here's a quick view of how it's set up. Many of you will be familiar with this, but just to kind of recap here, Fudo PAM, deployable as hardware and also virtualware, sits in the center. Everything's authenticated here from the side of the company with various protocols, just a few to mention: RDP, SSH, HTTP, HTTPS, and then of course the privilege users on the other side, with varying security protocols and policies that can be put in place by the team of an organization. But with that, now what I want to show you with this picture is that it's not only just privileged users. We have an environment for Fudo that actually allows us to look at a wider range, looking at secure remote access, and actually going into looking at securing workstations and people that are actually working from home. We've helped a company with that last year at the height of the crisis. That was a very, very fast deployment. Just took about maybe 2 days, and it was a financial institution here in Europe. And well over 2,000 workers were able to then, by means of Fudo Security Remote Access, be able to do their work safely from home and continue a business which continued involving over 15 million customers. So it's another way of looking at not just the fact of this needs to be done for compliance, this also needs to be done for the reality that we are all in. So there are many points to this, but here's a quick picture of what PAM looks like and how Fudo deploys. More on that in a moment, but I'd like to then slowly pass over to my colleague. And one thing that I want to touch on with Zero Trust that I may have missed, because there's a key important element to Zero Trust framework, which Fudo satisfies. Rafal, if you can just jump in at this point, if you can.
Yeah.
I'm thinking very much about the gateway, which I think you're going to be showing us now. So if you wouldn't mind, I'll pass you over now, and please continue the presentation.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Rafał Wiosna, pre-sales engineer here at Fudo Security. And let me just continue about saying something about the deployment we made at this financial institution. So we did this actually over the weekend. So the request from this institution was that the lockdown was starting and they wanted everyone working at the office to go home and start working as they exactly the way they have been working for the past years or in the office. So we created a cluster of Fudos, and of course for 2,000 people, it's not just one single appliance or a single VM. You have to do a cluster of Fudos to handle the load. But basically, it just boils down to the fact that they were connecting from home, from an unknown environment that wasn't secure, wasn't certified by the security team at this institution. So they wanted a tool to for users to be able to use their infrastructure, which they left the office, just sitting at home securely via Fudo cluster that we provided. So basically, let me add some annotations. Basically, they were connecting through VPN to this part of the network. This part of the network was completely separated. So there was no access to the company, even when you were connected with VPN. You weren't able to access the company. You had to go through Fudo to gain your access to your computer at your actual desk that you were sitting last week and last month or previously. So we came up with the cluster of Fudos to handle the connections from users. The idea behind this was that this institution haven't had time to buy enough notebooks to pass those notebooks to everyone at home to make it a more secure environment on the endpoint for the users. So they were connecting through VPN, and all they had to do was to go to a web page that Fudo provided. They used their login credentials for the local Active Directory forest, and they authenticated, and only then, after the authentication, they were able to connect to their workstations and work from home from unsecured environment. So basically, this was zero trust in action. So the security officers at this institution wasn't trusting the endpoints that users were using, and they wanted to maintain the complete separation between the users and the infrastructure in this institution. So Fudo provided this kind of separation, and the sessions were recorded, and everyone started to work remotely on Monday, except for the few essential employees that were very important. They stayed at the office. Most of them were just IT guys keeping this old system running in this institution. And yeah, this was done over the weekend, so it was pretty fast to get everything going. We were able to utilize Fudo's ability to integrate with Active Directory and used some scripts to import hundreds and hundreds of servers or workstations to Fudo configuration. And this cluster was set up in a day, and the next day we did testing if everything works. Everything worked flawlessly, so they decided to keep this deployment. Now some of the employees returned to work, but they have a choice. They can either work from home using using Fudo access to their workstation, or they can work from the office, of course, with all the requirements for the health side in place, so they can securely access their infrastructure from home using Fudo. Okay, Sasha, should I do a demo right
Yeah,
now?
I will pass. Why don't you now take over the share screen and just
Okay,
go straight
thank
into
you.
it.
So I will just share my screen. Yep. Okay, so basically, let me show you what was the workflow for their access to their network and their workstations. So let me show you. Let's suppose we are connected through VPN. We do not have access to any part of the network. We have to log into Fudo to be able to access the workstation which which this person was using just a week ago locally in the office. So I'm using here a local account, local username, but later I will show you how it works with Active Directory domain. So I'm logging, and a list comes up with all the accesses I am granted to start. Some of them are just plain RDP sessions, so I'm logging to remote Windows servers or remote Windows workstations. Some of them are using SSH, so I can log into a text console. Some of them are HTTP web pages, which actually Fudo is able to record in a graphical form. So I will show this later during the session, how Fudo can handle web recording in a graphical form, and it's all searchable, or all recorded just exactly as the user sees this in the browser. So let me just connect to one of the accounts I have access to. And very recently, we added this feature for connecting through using only the browser. You don't have to use your client, like for instance, in this for RDP protocol, you previously had to use remote desktop connection. Now all you have to do is click this button, and it will open a session in a window in your browser to your workstation or a server. So let me just do some moving of the window, because what I want to do right now is to feed enough information about my behavior to Fudo, so it could start analyzing my session, show if this session matches the the thumbprint of my actions that that was recorded before, and match this profile that Fudo had on my user, if this matches this particular session. So from administrator's point of view, let's log into our GUI, to our administrator's console. Okay, so we are connected. As we can see, we have already, Fudo has already recognized that 5 of the sessions that were suspicious, and I can review them later, but let's jump right into our session view. And we have this session for my user ML test, and it's not yet categorized by the Fudo's built-in artificial machine learning capability for learning how the user interacts with the infrastructure, how the user behaves. And Fudo's best feature about this machine learning is that it uses biometrics gathered from the movements of the mouse. So let me just move more here, so Fudo will get more information on what I'm doing right now, and we'll later start to we'll later take a look if this was enough to make this machine learning module that analyzes the sessions online going and categorize the session. Not yet, but let me show you all my sessions that are here, so I can list the sessions that are considered by Fudo as low or high threat, and from a security officer can review those sessions, can see what exactly was done in this session. So let's launch a simple session like this one. It's a 3-minute session. So let's review what the user was doing back then. So he was probably logging, doing something on the using the graphical console. So not much here. I believe this is a demo session. So we were just connecting and using making Fudo record the session. So let's close the session and let's go back to our window. And of course, from this interface, from this user access gateway, you can just connect to another connection. Let's connect to our webmail. Let's suppose this is a company's webmail, so we'll be connecting to Protonmail using, it's not private because I'm using just those stock certificates. I can, of course, add the company's certificates for the browser not to complain about the security. And let me just go back to the session, close. We'll bring back the RDP sessions, and let me remind you that we are still running using the browser, and browser is all you need to access the session. Okay, I see that we are connected to Protonmail. We do not want to any kind of notifications. So let's suppose we are. This is company's email accessed using a web interface, or maybe it's a company's VMware infrastructure or cloud infrastructure that you run in your company. So this session is also recorded by Fudo. Let's see, we have 3 sessions now running. Okay, so this is my session for HTTP, and administrator can review. Let me just move it to the right. Yeah, administrator can review exactly what user is seeing in what the user is doing in the browser, and review all the actions from the users in real time. So let me just bring this over here, so we would have side-by-side view of the user actions, and everything that I do here is rendered in this session. Here, which is a preview session of the actions that are performed by the user over the web connection provided by Fudo. So let me just stop this session to make some more changes to this session. I want Fudo to recognize that I'm not the person that we used to record the sessions and make a profile for this user. So maybe now, yeah, now it knows, Fudo knows that this session that I started in the first place, like 5 minutes ago, this session looks different than those sessions that were recorded earlier. So Fudo can recognize that the actions of the user are different than those actions that this user is performing usually. So maybe this is not this user. Maybe it's someone that is hacked into this account, or maybe this is a hacker doing a reconnaissance session for your infrastructure in your company. So this is a clear sign. Let me just show all the sessions that Fudo is concerned about. Those are the sessions, and as you can see, this session is live, so you can take a look who is connected. You can just call the user and ask the user if he is the one that is connected. And if this is not the case, you can always join the session from this web browser, close all the applications here, and log out the user, or maybe just terminate the session. Let me move my Zoom window, terminate the session. So this supposed user is not able to do more harm that was allowed when Fudo was trying to recognize the movement, the biometrics, the mouse movements, the mouse clicks, the way you type, the things you type, and make a profile and compare it to the profile that is stored in Fudo. Okay, so let me just show you another way of interacting with Fudo. Let's connect to a different user access gateway. I'll be using my Active Directory credentials. So I have a sample domain, big domain, which is my test domain, and I will be using admin user 1. And again, I'm presented with this list of servers that I'm able to access. And mind you that this is not a direct access. This is all recorded by Fudo. Fudo is recording the whole protocol bit by bit. It's not a movie. It's not. Those are not screenshots. This is a live session recorded in Fudo and forwarded to user through Fudo itself. So the user does not have any kind of access to infrastructure except for the Fudo itself. So let me launch another session here. This time I'm using I'll be using the protocol client, which is RDP connection client. And now Fudo will generate a one-time password, one-time token, which you can use to connect to your server. And of course, you can run a command, but it's way more easier to just click connect and have this Fudo RDP file downloaded by a browser. So let's see, we are connecting actually through Fudo. It's not the certificate for the server. We are connected directly to this server. And this is one nice thing that Fudo can store. every time user connects, you can ask the user what is the reason for connection. So testing, testing webinar. Yeah, and I'm not now connected, so let me make this smaller. Yeah, I'm connecting to my Windows server session, so I can start working on my things. And the security officer is able to review this session in real time. So let me connect to my Fudo administrator's console. There's one session going right now, and we can just launch the session here. I will move this window to the side, so you'll see that everything I do in this window, oh yeah, there are some updates, obviously. Everything you see in this preview window is actually the recording of the session that is running on this for this user. And of course, we can just make some let me just move zoom here, see the details of the session. So you will see that the user is just clicking, moving the mouse. Everything is recorded by Fudo, and everything is analyzed by Fudo. And let me show some of the features. This is just one cool feature that is you can use Fudo to recognize the commands that you sent in this session. So let me just ipconfig. Yeah, this works. But let's suppose we are working for with the database, and you want, as an administrator, to keep an eye of who's deleting things from the database. So let's suppose you want to prevent deleting tables or users or databases from the database itself. So let's suppose we are connected with some kind of database shell. So delete drop database users. Sorry. Okay, so let me just. Okay, so I will be doing something else. I want to prevent using the format. Okay, so I don't have this policy here, but I believe in this connection, I have a policy for ipconfig, which is, no, I don't have this here. So we have to go back to our portal here and make this connection to this server, because I know I have a policy there to prevent using certain commands to stop them while without the execution on the server. But while we do this, let me just format. Yeah, the session is frozen, so the administrator decided to stop users launching the format command. So let me show how it's done in Fudo. Okay, we have something that is called policies. So we have a policy called no format, and we are using actually the regular expressions to match the commands that you can prevent from executing, or you can just let recognize this command and send this information to your CM system. It doesn't really matter. For this particular policy, we are just stopping the session. Anytime you run format or ping, you can stop the execution of this command and let know the administrator that the user has performed some action that is at least dangerous or forbidden in your environment. Okay, so let's close this, and let me show you another cool feature of Fudo, which will be SSH sessions. So I do have the SSH session somewhere here. I will be connecting to a server. Yep, and this is a weird way to connect to a server, because usually the login is just username, but this time we are dealing with Fudo, so I'm telling Fudo that I want to authenticate as user U1, and I want to connect to server that is called Ubuntu 24NA. So it could be just an IP address, but this is the configuration I made just for one server. And look what happens. So this is my password, and now I'm asked for a password that is generated, one-time password that is generated in Google Authenticator. So I'm reaching my phone, and the current password for this user is 810-403. Yeah. And another way you can add metadata to your sessions is to ask again in SSH, what is the reason for connecting? So testing webinar access, and this information will be recorded in this session. And now Fudo tells me to pass the credentials for my server, and those are different credentials. Okay. No, again. Yep. So those are different credentials that I was asked to connect using SSH in the first place. So what is happening here? Fudo is configured in such a way that the authentication for connection is completely separated from the authentication on the server side. In fact, you don't have to provide any kind of credentials in Fudo configuration if you just tell Fudo to replace the username with a blank string and replace the password with blank string. Fudo will ask for the username and the password on the server. So basically, what you are able to achieve is this complete separation between the access to server and access to your infrastructure, to Fudo basically. So this is another kind of zero trust approach, in which you're asked to provide a static password, you are asked to provide second factor with the dynamic password, and only then, after you authenticate, so we are now trusting the user, only then you're asked for a real server credentials, and of course, those credentials are not saved on Fudo, and this is a way to very swiftly add a complete new layer of security to connections that are made by users. So let me just show you that this session is being recorded. So this, I believe this is the portal. This is the portal, and this is the management for this Fudo I'm using right here. And we have this session in our Windows. So when I have, so it's 219. So this is the user, the session. Now it's here. I have so many Fudos that sometimes I have to find the right Fudo, and of course I'm working for in Misuse, so I have many test servers with which I can test the functionality of Fudo. And this is the right session. So let's once again, let's launch this session in a window. And of course, my terminal has a different color scheme, but this is okay. Fudo will interpret this according to all the colors and all the whole scheme you're set. The terminal is set for. So again, this is recorded. And one more thing, when you're reviewing the sessions, you want to find a session that you want, for example, someone did something to your SAP instance to your Oracle, and you want to find the exact session that this action happened. So maybe you're trying to find out who deleted this table. Maybe you're trying to find out who ran this transaction in SAP that resulted in some changes to your finance, whatever. So Fudo has this ability to search through sessions. So let me just search which one is it. It's this one. It should be this one. Yeah, let's search who, for example, configured your infrastructure. So let's search for ISCSI, and we'll find a bunch of sessions. So let's take a look at this session. This is that 2-hour, 16-minute session, so quite a long session to search in. And yeah, could anyone spot the word ISCSI on this in this picture? It's right here. So Fudo is able to recognize what was shown on the screen, not only what the user was typing, but also what was shown on the screen. So we can actually see what the user was doing. And in fact, this is a session for me configuring Proxmox virtual hypervisor. And as you can see, you can review my work and see exactly what the user was doing back then to register the actions, to validate their actions if they were doing the right thing, or maybe they were doing something wrong, something malicious, or maybe they were browsing for data that they weren't supposed to be browsing. And everything is recorded here, and everything can be reviewed later, like months before a session that was launched like 3 months ago. You still have access to this session, and you'll be able to review users' actions. So basically, Sasha, I think this is just a peek of Fudo's abilities, but those are the actions that the actions and the sessions that I showed you will make a good picture of what Fudo does and what is the reason for adding Fudo to your infrastructure. And remember that not just in time, zero trust. I will be telling you about just in time in a moment. Zero trust is the whole ideology of approach to a security for your infrastructure. So Fudo is just this one piece that helps you to record the sessions, but this is zero trust is the whole picture. So you have to run something on your endpoint to validate the user. So you have to run a session recorder, for example, Fudo, to validate the actions of users, and you can take measures when the actions do not match your policy. And there is also a requirement to constantly check if the user is authenticated. So this is exactly what zero trust is. It's not just one tool that does all. There are several tools that perform the zero trust approach in your infrastructure. And I was telling you about this just in time. Just in time is a part of this zero trust. So what it does is basically you don't have access to your service. You have to request the access to your service, and this is coming in the next Fudo release. I hope that next time we meet, I'll be just spending some time on describing how it is implemented in 4.5. Right now, it's in a state of very early alpha release, so I don't have anything to show you, but next time we will meet, I will try to show you how just-in-time is implemented in Fudo. So we have veto capability, we have permanent permanent access and temporary access. We have immediate or time-based access. This is all coming in the next Fudo release. So I hope next time we will be doing a webinar. I will be able to show you how it works in Fudo, not just talk about the features that are coming in the next version.
Well, thank you so much. I was just going to ask you, maybe
Yep.
you can tell us about what's happening with the new release of Fudo and some features, but you've already covered that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but of course, we release more. I'm happy and very glad that you shared that with us. And as you said, and as I covered earlier, Fudo PAM is part of a wider zero trust policy. And I've just launched a very quick poll and questionnaire here on your screens. Hopefully you can see that. I've just launched it here. Many of you have already voted, but we just like to know if you can just answer that one question and of what you've seen here today, and in general from your knowledge, how Fudo PAM and Zero Trust fits in. Also, I've just seen here, Rafael, we've got a question. So before we move on, we have a question from one of the participants, and it's if you can see it, I can read it out. Is it possible to give a specific user permission to view the sessions of some users without allowing any other admin actions?
Of course, in Fudo you have roles for the people, for the administrators that can access the console of Fudo, and there are basically three levels of access. The super admin is the administrator, and this was the role that I was using, but you can give roles that have less access than this administrator. So for example, we have administrator access. So this was the super administrator I was using. So the administrator access has an ability to view sessions, change configuration, save configuration, delete, etc. But it could be done on a narrow set of servers, narrow set of users. So this access, the administrator level access, could be scaled down to a particular set of servers, for example. And in Fudo, you have a role called operator. So I call this role auditor. So you basically have access only for to sessions. You do not have access to changing any configuration. You have a read-only access, so you can narrow down your permissions in Fudo to be an auditor for like SAP servers or Oracle servers. So yes, this is possible in Fudo. It's built into the system. And with the new release, there will be a special way of administering Fudo. So we have implemented multi-tenancy. So basically, you can spawn a virtual Fudo inside of your Fudo that will handle only this particular organization unit's needs, and anything will be everything will be available to them, but only within their parameters. So they can create new, they can have their own super admin. They can create admins, auditors, but only accessing the system that they have. They are basically administering. So yes, we have two ways of changing the access for different kind of people, administrators, auditors, and this is built into Fudo.
Yeah, indeed. So thanks for that, and so hopefully that answered your question. I've just seen here that more people have also voted here in the poll, so I'm just going to finish that and share the results with you, so you can see that overwhelmingly you seem to all agree that Fudo PAM is an important and helpful tool for organizations and companies for their zero trust policy. And also, it's a good point at this stage to say that if you'd like more information about this, we actually have written an actual white paper, but more about zero trust and how that fits in a policy for your organization. So feel free to also connect to us on our website. It's on our resources page, or just get in touch with us. We're happy to have more of a chat with you. So let's just wrap up here. I'm going to share briefly some points one more time. Just give me a moment here. And thanks, Rafael, for that. It's really very interesting. And obviously, with Fudo, there's always changes and improvements coming along the way, new releases. So we're going to keep you informed on that. But just you need to stay tuned with Fudo security. We've always got things coming up. So as you've seen now, quite brilliantly demonstrated by Rafael and shown how Fudo PAM works, how it fits into zero trust. And as you've seen, like with Gartner, with other organizations and the industry, zero trust is something that is moving back into the main light of how organizations secure themselves. And just to remind you about what Fudo PAM is, we believe very strongly and are very proud of what we've achieved in our unmatched session recording, as you've seen, with the RDP sessions, SSH, several other protocols. This is something that we've done great care to build over the years. This is what we have experience in. Perhaps competition can say that they've mastered other parts for potentially the password vaults, but we have really gone to the core and made this brilliant and unmatched session recording, which you've seen here today. Of course, also with our AI-driven prevention, where you can also see what's going on very quickly, and able to really move away from forensics and go really into active protection, proactive protection for sessions. And naturally then our one-day deployment, the way and ease of use, how Fudo is then deployed, not requiring anything additional, no agents or anything, everything is straight out of the box and all-in-one solution. So these are powerful advantages that we're really, really set on. And we can talk more of in future, and more any things that you'd like to know specifically, please do reach out to us. And just to see that it's not just ourselves who are very happy with Fudo, but you may recognize here some organizations and companies that would agree with that as well. Great. So I'm just looking here. If there are no more questions, please, if you want to ask something now, we're happy to do so. Anything about Fudo security or PAM or zero trust. And if not, feel free to reach out. That's also okay. I know that it's been roughly about an hour now. And I once again want to thank you all for attending. I can't say exactly how many, but we have a double-digit turnout today here this morning. So thank you very much. I see a lot of different people from across Europe and even further outside of Europe. So thank you so much for joining us here today. Again, if you would like to watch this webinar, this will be available to you, but you just have to connect to us. We'll be sending it out as well. We have other webinars that are planned, a lot of content coming up, and a lot of new things on the horizon. So we're actively involved in securing organizations all the time, and happy to share the newest what's going on in the sector and the world. So with that, also a big round of applause, virtual applause, and my thanks to my colleague Rafa. Thank you so much for assisting and showing off your tech talents. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, I conclude and say, have a great day, everyone, and stay safe. And thanks from all of us here at Fudo Security. I myself, Sasha Farbach, and Rafael signing off. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.